Recently, I had a phone call from a constituent that asked me to come over to his office. I went over there and sat down with him, and he showed me next door where there was a storefront that literally there were people streaming into this storefront on a constant basis for the entire hour that I was there, middle of the day. And I asked him what his concern was, and he said, you know, this goes on for day after day after day after day, and in this case, it was primarily Hispanic families, and he said, we share a common block of mailboxes, and he said, from time to time, I will go to the mailbox to open my box up, and inadvertently, the postal worker will have put some of the mail from this place next door into my mailbox, and then I look through it to see which is my mail and which is not my mail. And he says that there are dozens and dozens of IRS checks that are made out to various different people. And I've listened to the testimony today, and I don't know that I was able to decipher what this particular problem was, but they were all using this same address of this tax preparer in this case. He asked me to look into it. Frankly, I did not know where to start in looking into it. I did not know what governmental agency to start with. The first was the IRS, but then after listening today to the panel, can you suggest to me what a congressman should do when a constituent cares this much about how the system is being played, on what action I might take, and then describe to me what possible fraud is going on in this case? Mr. Miller.
So if I could start, Congressman. I would recommend that you do contact us. The postal inspector as well has lines that do this, and we work very well with the postal inspector. You know, in any given case, I have no idea whether it's fraudulent or not, because it may be that that's their mailing stop. That's where they're receiving their refund, and they come back and grab it. It also is possible, obviously, that it's a drop for fraudulent returns that are being procured. So we wouldn't know in any given case. It certainly would raise our antenna, as it did yours, and we would look at it. So I would recommend coming to us. The postal inspector works with us very closely, looking for exactly this sort of pattern and stopping a whole lot of these things. I'll mention one other thing, because we're talking about mail. And we've talked about debit cards and the problems on debit cards. But there's one thing I do want to make sure everyone is aware of. That debit card, when it goes out, when you order it online or however you're ordering it, it doesn't go out with money on it. So if we've stopped that refund, it never has money on it. That money goes into an account with sub-accounts, as the taxpayer advocate mentioned. But it may be, when you see these rows of cards, that they are devoid of money on them. So that's another thing I will mention.
You mentioned earlier that the mailing address that a person can use pretty much any mailing address for his return.
Generally not. I'll have to come back. That's a specificity I don't have at my fingertips, so I'll have to come back.
But a preparer could designate that the person's mailing address be the preparer's mailing address. Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Marchant, I would just point out, because there is some overlapping responsibilities here, the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, which was once the inspection service within the IRS, we have primary oversight of an IRS employee who is accused of committing some type of tax or other criminal wrongdoing, a preparer who steals their client's information, or someone who is using the IRS's symbol. It could be anyone, but if they mimic the IRS eagle and attempt to defraud a person or an entity, that is primarily our jurisdiction. Whereas the Criminal Investigations Division, which is within the IRS itself, truly has the primary responsibility to investigate in a matter such as the example you gave, along with the Postal Service, which would also have the postal inspector, who would also have some responsibility. And then there are instances where the overlap would be an IRS employee who sells the information about a taxpayer to a bad person, and that bad person then engages in the tax fraud. So that's where there would be some overlapping jurisdiction, among other examples.
Thank you very much.